Good afternoon, my beautiful babes and cats. I am your resident active advocate, and I'm late today because I went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and now I'm tired. But, yeah. Anyway, so that's my excuse of the day. But today I would like to talk to you about the other side of loving infantilization. Yesterday, it was more about how other people can do it to you. Today, I want to talk about how you can do it to yourself and how you can play off of the expectations of others in order to infantilize yourself in the loving sense, okay? Separate from the more, societal based or harmful sense of infantilization. Loving infantilization can be somewhat more insidious because, as the name implies, it is done by people often who love you, who care for you, who want the best for you, right? And anyone with a decent degree of self-esteem is going to want what is best for themselves as well. The problem is with the message coming from the other side that, well, we want you to be safe. We want you to be kept whole and kept from harm and, sort of put into this neat little box where nothing's going to touch you. Like I said yesterday, the whole mindset of I will never let anything happen to you means that nothing's going to happen to you, either good or bad, right? If the person in question, if the person with the disability takes this mindset and runs with it, the problem that can arise from this is the problem of total dependence on their social network, on their caretakers, on their parents, so on and so forth. The problem arises when the person with the disability says, not only am I not necessarily capable of doing XYZ, but I am also not expected to do XYZ, and I should not do XYZ because God only knows what the risk might be. And the mindset of fear that I talked about yesterday, because a lot of people will lovingly infantilize out of fear for what can happen to you. But that fear then can be passed on to the person with the disability, and they can sort of say to themselves, well, if mom or dad or my sister or my friends and family, if they're so afraid of the consequences that could come upon me from trying XYZ, what can I possibly do? I mean, they must know better than I do. They raised me. They helped me become the person who I am now. The problem there is that the person with the disability not only is not taking up agency that they could have, but the agency that they already have is being given away. You're giving away your own agency when you say, Mom and Dad know best, my sister knows best, my community knows best. All these people who do legitimately want the best for me, they know better than I do. There are more of them. They have more experience. They are the people who taught me. And when it comes to undoing this mindset, a lot of the time, and I was talking about gradual processes by nature are gradual. It's going to take a long time, depending on how deep-rooted this teaching is, to say for yourself that, yes, I feel safe taking this risk. As I have previously said, I do not advocate for jumping immediately into the deep end if you don't know how to swim. If you don't know how to swim, you first get into the pool, maybe into the kiddie pool, and get your water wings on and learn first how to be in the water as it's moving around you. By the way, this is a bad analogy because I don't know how to swim, but you feel the water, you feel the motion of it moving around you, and there might be other kids in the pool with you. There's going to be someone there who knows how to swim and who can teach you. One of the key aspects of breaking out of the self-infantilization that comes out of love and fear is the gradual process, but is also looking to other people to support you in your endeavor to multiply your skills, to, become a better version of yourself. I know how hoity-toity that sounds, but it's true too. Just to gain these very basic life skills, like I can cut a tomato and I didn't cut my finger off. Yay! Or I can turn the stove on and I'm not going to burn myself. Or to use the swimming analogy, you do it with a life jacket on and you do it with supervision. So basically, when it comes to any given life skill, it has to be the decision of the person with the disability to get to learn this skill. There could be someone on the outside saying to them, you know what, you need to learn this, because without this particular skill, you're going to be pretty stuck when it comes to later on in your life. There could be that external motivating factor, but at the same time, loving infantilization can create an attitude of, I can't, I don't want to, it's not safe, no matter what it is. And that, in turn, unfortunately, can also create an attitude of laziness. Because it's like, okay, these skills, however many there are removed from off of my table of responsibility, quotation marks, shall we call it. They're on someone else's table. They're over on that table. I don't have to deal with that table. This is the table that I have to deal with. And you see how small I'm making it with my hands. Unfortunately, that table can be quite small, depending on the kind of people who raise you, depending on the kind of people who nurture you, depending on the kind of people who teach you. Much of this does come from the external factors, but the incentive to learn more has to come from the person with the disability. You can light a fire under anyone's butt, but if they don't get up and respond to that, then that is on them. There are some cases, okay, I need to address this, where it may not be within the person's capability to learn XYZ skills, right? Someone with an intellectual disability, for example, may not be able to learn how to buy a plane ticket online and fly themselves down to Florida without someone with them, okay? There are limitations that need to be put, or not need to, but there are limitations that may intrinsically be put on this, given a person's natural skill set or the abilities that they actually have the ability, good English, to exercise, given their intellectual capacity, given their social capacities. If you have horrible social anxiety, I'm not going to say, go to Burning Man or whatever, where there's like 10 million people around. No, like I say, gradual improvements are better than no improvements at all. But if you don't have the capacity to do a certain thing, and I mean literally don't have the capacity to do a certain thing, then that can be on someone else. But it is also up to the person in question to determine what their own capacities are. A lot of the time, people are held back by the ignorance of what they are and are not capable of doing. Right. So you need to explore your own boundaries. You need to explore your own capabilities without someone else, caring or otherwise, dictating to you what they believe you can and cannot do. That is also a critical step in undoing the damage that can be done here, because the better you know yourself, the better you know your own skill sets, the easier it's going to be for you to take that first step into growing into having a new skill. Even if it's just crossing the street on your own for the first time. That, for me, when I was young, that was very daunting. It was scary. And later on in life, I sprinted across a 6 or 8 lane road with someone who wasn't being very nice about it, but I was still able to do it. And I was terrified, but I did it. Not a fun experience, but I'm alive, so hurrah. Sometimes you're thrust into the deep end and you can't help it. But when it comes to a situation like that, try to keep your head. And this is me speaking from personal experience. I know it can be hard, okay? If you accidentally set a fire, just as an example, try to keep your head and know where the baking soda is. You know? Basic kitchen rule. Always have the baking soda handy. If it's a grease fire, you don't want to use water. That kind of thing. But all these things that I'm outlining here, you need to learn these things. You don't intrinsically know these things. So the more you can push the boundaries of your knowledge, the more you can push the boundaries of what you are physically capable of doing as well. And I am definitely guilty of sitting on my butt and saying that I can't. Less so now that I'm an adult, but it's still there. And as I say, I mean, this is a personal example of how these things can stick around. I can cook, but not like a 5-course meal or anything. I can do my own traveling, but I have to be very aware of where I am going. I have to be very cognizant of, you go this way, not that way, because if you go that way, you're going to get lost. And I don't like being lost, of course, with the visual impairment, right? But that's just a personal example, and a lot of different people are going to have a lot of different examples. The whole point here, though, too, is also, if you feel capable, do a thing that scares you. Do a thing that scares you, because we can't really learn any very major life lessons before we conquer our fears of learning those lessons and of exercising those abilities. We don't know what we're capable of doing until we drop our fear of doing it. So that is the other side of the loving infantilization. Tomorrow, I will be talking more about the bad kind, or the worst kind, of infantilization that comes from other people flat out assuming that you cannot, and how to undo that damage, because that is more on you than it is on the other person. But I will be talking about the other person's side as well. This next video might just be a one-parter rather than a two-parter. It depends on how deep I want to go. But we will find out together, and it will be a lovely experience. All right. Thank you for your lovely attention and participation, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Mwah!